assets, including golf courses, but its savings and loan subsidiary is having problems. Material Sciences up 1 5/8. We were unable to contact any officer there. Howtech Incorporated fell 1 1/2 points. The company said its fourth quarter sales are below estimates, and for the full year, it's going to have a 15-cent per share loss. That's our Wall Street wrap-up, Linda.
Well, Paul, in Washington, the Senate Ethics Committee decided today that California Democrat Alan Cranston won't have to face public cross-examination in the Keating 5 hearings because of his health. Cranston's doctor says the senator has been too weakened by radiation treatment for cancer to face even videotaped questioning. His lawyer says Cranston's previous statements will have to stand as Cranston's defense against allegations of improperly helping former SNL owner Charles Keating. Meanwhile, Senator Donald Regal finished up his defense today amid signs that panel members are becoming frustrated by the lengthy and repetitive testimony.
If I'm disturbed about anything, and I'm disturbed about many things, it is that not once during these hearings have I heard anything remotely resembling a mea culpa.
Would you like to hear one from me right now? If there had been any clue that the problems in this institution were such that the regulators were planning to initiate a criminal referral, that would have been something that would have caused me, and I think I can safely say for the other 4 here, to not get within a million miles of this situation.
The committee still has one more member of the Keating 5 to hear from. Senator Dennis DeConcini is expected to testify tomorrow.
The Bush administration expects substantial increases in the deficit because of the recession. But an administration source disputes a Washington Post report that the estimates have been raised to between $300 billion and $325 billion. The last administration projection put the deficit at between $250 and $300 billion, not including the cost of Persian Gulf operations. Reuters quotes the source as saying the situation in the Gulf makes the numbers highly changeable.
More evidence of consumer caution. Consumer debt grew by $1.7 billion in November, but on a seasonally adjusted basis, that's considered a small increase. According to the Federal Reserve, consumer credit grew at 2.8% annually, leaving total consumer debt at just over $738 billion. November auto loans dropped for the 8th consecutive month, and revolving credit was up a mere $1 billion.
The National Urban League says that a long recession would harm blacks more than whites. In its annual State of Black America report, the League urged all necessary measures to prevent a prolonged recession. And League President John Jacobs says the current economic downturn makes passage of the Civil Rights Bill an urgent necessity.
But I believe that if the Civil Rights Act become law, if the Urban Marshall Plan gets serious consideration, and if the administration chooses to work more creatively with Black America, then 1991 could become a year of hope and a year of accomplishment.
Jacob warns, however, that past experience shows that the racial gap in employment becomes wider and more severe during a nationwide recession. In business briefs, Paramount Communications reports fourth quarter earnings of 93 cents a share. That's a dramatic drop from the $10.28 a share Paramount reported a year ago after selling off its finance business. But the publishing and entertainment giant says its continuing operations gave a much better showing in the last quarter than they did a year ago. And a House of Representatives panel has criticized SmithKline Beecham for the way the drug maker is marketing a generic version of the high blood pressure medicine Diazide. Diazide is the medication that the government caught generic drug makers substituting for their own. The stock closed at 56 3/4, unchanged.
Coming up, tonight's mutual fund report looks at how funds performed in the fourth quarter.
The U.S. and the Soviet Union agreed today on how Moscow will use $900 million in a farm credit package. More than $500 million in credits will be spent on corn and other feed grains. $165 million will be made available for wheat and flour sales. The rest will go toward buying soy and poultry meat. Another $100 million is earmarked for use at a later date.
General Motors is paying its Saturn dealers up to $5.8 million in compensation for delays in delivering the new line of small cars. Saturn dealers have been plagued with delays as the automaker has held back car production to fix quality problems in the new models. The delay has pushed back the opening of some 30 dealerships. GM says the compensation ranges from $50,000 to $100,000 per dealer.
Japan's NEC Corporation says it's developed a computer system that can understand limited conversations spoken in both Japanese and English. NEC says the development marks a milestone toward its goal of developing a practical automatic interpreting machine. The system only has a vocabulary of 500 words and takes about 5 seconds to interpret an average sentence. The machine isn't expected to be marketed for at least 10 years.
In tonight's Money File, we take our quarterly look at mutual fund performance, this time covering the October through December period. After the drubbing that most equity funds took in the third quarter, the fourth quarter was a time for the hardest hit to come back and regain some of the ground they lost. Among those were the aggressive growth funds, which registered dead last in the third quarter. But according to the Atom Network, they placed at the top in the latest period with an 8.6% gain. Option income and growth funds followed close behind. In longer-term performance categories, international funds continued to stay out in front on the strength of their big gains in the previous years. However, in the most recent quarter, international funds placed near the bottom. Among the few to do even worse were the high flyers of the third quarter, the precious metals funds. In fact, during 1990 as a whole, precious metals did the worst of any group with a loss of more than 22%. Looking at individual funds, heading the best performers with a 25% gain was Fidelity Select Technology. This is a sector fund concentrating in high-tech stock issues, which outperform most other stocks. Almost doing as well was First Investors Global, which managed to buck the decline in international funds, apparently because of holdings in the relatively strong U.S. market. And rounding out the top three was Financial Strategic Health Science. That's a fund that specializes in drug and biotech stocks. Biotech funds were also tops in 12-month returns, led by Fidelity Select Biotechnology, and in 5-year returns, again led by Financial Strategic Health Sciences. Taking a look at risk-adjusted scores, which factor out funds with big swings on the downside, Capital Income Builder was number 1 in the equity income category, although even it had a negative score. That reflected continuing weakness in bank and insurance company stocks. For the second quarter in a row, Mather's Fund led in the growth category. And in the aggressive growth area, 20th Century Ultra proved best. Finally, looking at equity mutual funds with the most assets, the red ink that resulted in double-digit losses in the third quarter dried up. This time around, all had single-digit gains, except for Washington Mutual Investors Fund, which returned better than 12%. Incidentally, a list of these results is available in the transcript of tonight's program.
Taking a look at some of the stories in the NBR Daybook for tomorrow, the Senate Banking Committee holds a hearing on the Bank of New England's failure. The head of the National Association of Manufacturers discusses industrial competitiveness in a speech in Washington, and we'll have a report on the California oil industry.
And that wraps up this edition of NBR for Tuesday, January 8th.
For all of us, I'm Paul Kangas wishing you the best of goodbyes.
The Nightly Business Report is produced in association with Reuters, the world's largest electronic publisher, which provides NBR with news, market data, and communication services worldwide. And is made possible by A.G. Edwards, providing personalized financial services and investment advice to individuals and businesses. A.G. Edwards, a century-old tradition of service to investors. Franklin Group of Funds, with more than 1,700,000 shareholders and 55 different funds, Franklin has been helping investors reach their financial goals since 1947. Digital Equipment Corporation, with network application support to make all your computers work as one. And by the financial support of viewers like you.
State Line, Channel 6's weekly review of the Colorado Legislature, premieres this Friday at 8:30. MacNeil Lehrer is next.
a transcript of this program, please send $4 check or money order to NBR Transcripts, WPBT, P.O. Box 2, Miami, Florida 33261-0002. Please include the date of the broadcast.
Presentation of the Nightly Business Report is made possible locally by members of Channel 6, the station's major source of funding.
Channel 6 salutes Colorado's originals. The Arvada Center for the Arts and Humanities presents the Oil City Symphony, Friday, January 18th and Saturday, January 19th. Call 431-3080 for ticket information. The Arvada Center, Channel 6 salutes the best of Colorado.
Next time on Nova. In 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted, destroying trees, moving a lake, and turning scientific theory upside down.
Would develop our ideas and concepts and theories, and then nature would just knock them on their pin.
Now scientists have had more than 10 years to study, and Mother Nature has had 10 years to renew. The surprising return to Mount St. Helens. That's next time on Nova.
Experience Nova tonight at 7 on 6.
Tuesday evening programming on Channel 6 is made possible in part by a grant from Davis Partnership, PC. Architecture for healthcare, research, education, and commerce.
Low-income residents of Colorado have until Thursday, February 28th, to apply for the second round of loans available from the state's Housing Opportunity Fund to renovate existing housing. To learn how to qualify or for additional information, call the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority at 297-7307. That's 297-7307. This is Channel 6, KRMA-TV, Denver. Presentation of the MacNeil Lehrer News Hour is made possible tonight by grants from the Gates Foundation. And your optics, helping people see the world more clearly, with 2 locations in the greater Denver area.
Good evening. Leading the news this Tuesday, President Bush called tomorrow's talks with Iraq possibly the final chance for peace. The U.S. sharply criticized the Soviet Union's military crackdown in 7 of its republics, and Pan American Airways filed for bankruptcy. We'll have details in our news summary in a moment. Jim?
After the news summary, we get 5 preview perspectives on tomorrow's crucial war or peace meeting between Secretary of State Baker and Iraqi Foreign Minister Aziz. Tom Bearden reports on the Pan Am bankruptcy filing, and Charlene Hunter-Gault continues her conversations about murder.
Funding for the News Hour has been provided by PepsiCo. Every day...